Good afternoon, Doc Abante and colleagues. And now I will present bond analysis and portfolio management strategy. Learning objectives, identify key bond characteristics like coupon rate, maturity, and yield, and recognize different types of bonds. Learn how to calculate and interpret important metrics like current yield and yield to maturity. Understand the main risk of investing in bonds. Learn the different strategies for managing portfolios and risk mitigations. And assess portfolio performance using key benchmarks and return metrics. Bonds is an investment that pays a fixed rate of return through investment or dividend income. It's like a loan that you can buy and sell. You lend money to a borrower, either corporation, municipality, or government, and get interest in and your money back later. Pictures of a bond is a face value. It is the original amount of the invested bond or the principal amount of the bond. It is also the amount that the issuer will repay at the end of maturity. Then coupon rate is the annual interest rate paid on the face value of the bond. And coupon payment frequency, it is indication of how often the interest payments will be made, either annually, semi-annually, quarterly, and monthly. Maturity date, this is the date when the bond issuer will repay the face value in whole amount to the investor or bondholder. Credit rating is the measure of the issuer's creditworthiness. The highest credit rating is AAA, means uh, extremely low risk of default, and lowest is from triple C, double C, and C, which is a very speculative rating. Credit rating means high risk of default. Issuer refers to the entity using the bond, which can be either government, municipality, or corporation. Then yield, this is the total return an investor can expect to earn from a bond, considering both the interest payments and any price appreciation or depreciation of the price of the bond. Types of bonds, we have government bonds, which is issued by state or local governments to raise funds for various projects or to finance deficits. They are generally considered safer than corporate bonds due to lower risk of default. They are government bonds have a lower risk of default, or the government rather, because they have many sources that they can get, or they can pay their debt, like through uh investment, or through uh shit, nawala ako. Bad trip. Ay, nawala ako. Ulit na naman. Ba naman yan? Basahin ko na nga lang to. Good afternoon, Doc Abante and colleagues. So now I'll present bond analysis and portfolio management strategy. Learning objectives, identify key bonds characteristics like coupon rate, maturity, and yield, and recognize different types of bonds. Learn how to calculate and interpret important metrics like current yield and yield to maturity. Understand the main risk of investing in bonds. Learn the different strategies for managing portfolios and risk mitigations, and assess portfolio and performance using benchmarks and return metrics. What is bonds? It is an investment that pays a fixed rate of return through interest or dividend income. It's like a loan that you can buy and sell. You lend money to a borrower, either a corporation, municipality, or government, and get interest and your money back later. Pictures of a bond, face value. This is the original amount invested in the bond, or the principal amount. It is also the amount that the issuer will pay at the end of the maturity of the bond. Coupon rate is this is the annual interest rate paid on the face value of the bond. It is expressed in percentage form. Then coupon payment frequency, this is the indication of how often the interest payments are made, either uh, annually, semi-annually, quarterly, or monthly. Maturity date, this is the end date, or the date when the bond issuer will repay in full the face value of the bond. Then credit rating, this is the measurement of the issuer's creditworthiness. The higher credit rating is AAA, which indicates extremely low risk of default, and lowest credit rating is C, or either triple C, double C, or C, which is very speculative, indicating very high risk of default. Issuer, this is the borrower, either government, municipality, or corporation. Then yield, this is the total return expected, or total return an investor can expect to earn from a bond, either considering both the interest they will in the interest payments that they will earn, and any price appreciation or depreciation of the bond. It is also expressed in percentage. There are different types of bonds. First is government bonds. This is issued by state or local governments to raise funds for various projects or to finance deficits. They are they are generally considered safer than corporate bonds due to the lower risk of default. Um, Government have a lower risk of default because they have ability to raise revenue either through taxation, or they can also issue currency or print new currency, though there will be a risk of uh, inflation. They can also borrow to other countries just to repay or to cover their other uh, debts. So it means they have many resources to pay their debts. So they have a lower risk of default. Corporate bonds issued by corporations to raise capital for business operations, expansions, or acquisitions. These bonds offer higher interest rates than government bonds to compensate the increased risk of default. Then municipal bonds issued by state and local governments to finance public projects. They often offer tax advantage, making them attractive to investors in higher tax bracket. Municipal bonds offer tax advantage because most of the bonds or most of municipal bonds are tax exempt. Like if the purpose of the bond is for environmental or development or sustainable development. Then zero coupon bonds. Any bonds that's sold at a discount to their face value and do not pay periodic interest. Instead, the investor receives the full face value at maturity. So the interest earned here in zero coupon bond will be the difference of, or the implied interest will be the difference of face value and the purchase price, or how much the bond was sold. Then key metrics for analysis of the bond. First, current yield. It helps investor assess the income generated from a bond or other fixed income securities relative to its current market price. It is current yield is useful for to measure the or for evaluating the return on investment at specific point in time, especially for bonds that are bought and sold in a secondary market. So formula to compute current yield is annual coupon payment divided bond price. So for example, if an investor buys a 6% coupon rate bond with the par or face value of 10,000 uh, for a discount of 9,000, the investor earns an annual interest income of 600 pesos. That's 10,000 times 6%. Then the current yield for this bond will be 600 divided 9,000 will be 6.67%. So this one indicates that the investor earn a relatively higher return of 0.67 compared to its coupon rate of 6%. Then in the other hand naman, an investor purchased a bond at a premium of 11,000. The current yield is 600 divide 11,000 purchase price is equals to 5.45%. For this one, the investor paid more of the premium bonds than pays the same peso amount of interest. So the current yield is lower. So this one, maliit yung current yield because mas mataas yung binayaran niya kasi sa face value ng bonds. So why the investor needs to know the current yield of their bond? So first for income assessments. This knowing in current yield will help investors to measure how much their income they will receive from the bond relative to what they would pay for it today. Then Also, it can help them for decision for about investment comparison. This allows them for choosing better uh, So for year 1, we will get 2,403.85. Year 2, 4,620.86. And for year 3, 139,897.71. Then after that, we just need to get the sum of the present value and sum of the weighted PB per year. So for weighted PB, that the sum will be 146,922.42, and for the present value, the sum will be 51,346.85. And with that, we can now calculate the Macaulay duration by using a simplified formula, which is sum of weighted PB divided by sum of present value. So in our example, the Macaulay duration of the bond is 2.86 or years or 2 years and 10 months. Interpretation. So if an investor plans to hold the bond for a period close to its duration, which is 2.86 years, they are more likely to be protected from interest rate fluctuations. Then another duration type is modified duration. This one is an extension only of a Macaulay duration, which directly measures the price sensitivity to interest rate changes. So this one we'll just compute here the percentage change in the bond price for a 1% change in yield. So here's the formula. Macaulay duration divide 1 plus year to maturity divide the number of coupon periods per year. Example, uh, using also our previous example, which is where we get Macaulay duration of 2.86 years and a yield of 4%, let's further assume na yung bond have a interest uh, repayment frequencies is annual compounding. So, modified duration is equals to 2.86 divide 1 plus 0.04 divide 1 is equals to approximately 2.75. So, here it tells us how much a bond price will change if interest rates go up or down by 1%. So, if interest rate go up by 1, so this in our example, the bond price will drop by approximately 2.75. But if it go down by 1%, then the bond price will increase by 2.75%. Another key metrics for bond analysis is convexity. It represents the rate at which the bond's duration changes in response to changes in interest rates. So this convexity computation helps to describe how the price of a bond responds to changes in interest rates. So this one specifically for bonds with a significant or large fluctuation in interest rates. So this is the formula to compute the convexity. This one there's no simplified version on how to compute it, so it can only be computed in a financial calculator or statistical software. So, uh, also convexity, uh, uh, consider nonlinear fluctuation or the response of a price to change in interest. So it is for bonds with a significant fluctuation in interest rates. So ang key concept lang ng convexity, bond with higher convexity values are less sensitive to interest rate changes, offering low interest rate risk. Means for investor in under high convexity, investors lose a lot of value quickly if interest rates go up, but if the interest go fall, they don't gain as much. Then and conversely, with bonds with lower convexity values are more sensitive to interest rate changes, exposing investors to higher interest rate risk. So for this one, uh, I Uh, for higher convexity, the investor don't lose much value when the rate rises, and they gain much more when the rate falls. While for lower convexity, investor lose a lot of value quickly if interest rates go up and don't gain as much when rates go down. Then this one, risk factors in bonds. So we have different risk factors. First, interest rate risk. This one is a potential change in bond prices due to fluctuations in market interest rates. Then credit risk that a bond issuer may not be able to meet its financial obligation or they may default in payment. Then inflation risk, possibility that the purchasing power of bond returns may be eroded by rising prices. Reinvestment risk, uncertainty surrounding the risk, interest rate at which investors can reinvest the cash flows received from their bond holdings. So this uncertainty refers to changes in economic factors like inflation, economic growth, uh, changes in employment rates, also can be change in monetary policy or change of monetary policy specifically from other countries like central bank from US and Europe. Global issues like geopolitical uh, events, conflict of countries. So that's the example of the uncertainty that can affect the reinvestment of a bonds. The liquidity risk, potential difficulty in buying or selling a bond in the secondary market. So for this one, if your bond is less liquid, then you may find it more difficult to execute trades efficiently because the highest price a buyer is willing to pay or the bid price can be the lowest price the seller is willing to accept, which is the ask price. Then duration and maturity, this one, sensitivity of bond prices to change in interest rates. So this one is in relation to the fluctuation of the interest rates. Then economic market condition, impact of economic market conditions on bond risk premiums, like during economic downturns, recession, or if there's any political events, big political events happen in between countries. So it can cause for investors to look for uh, bond with a higher risk premium. Then portfolio management. So what's portfolio management? It is a strategic process of selecting, diversifying, and managing a collection of investments with the goal of achieving specific financial objectives. So portfolio composition, it can be cash, it can be alternative investment like real estate, cryptocurrencies, insurance, or private equity. It can be bonds and it can be stocks. For portfolio management strategy can be on the basis of activity and on the basis of discretion. For activity, there are two types, active and passive portfolio management. For active, the goal is to outperform the market or beat the market or a specific benchmark. So since it will be outperforming the market, the key characteristics of active portfolio management is involves regular buying and selling of assets, requiring deep market analysis and research skills, high, higher fees due to frequent trading and management effort, and higher risk, but also potential for higher return. Then for us, passive portfolio management, The goal is only replicate or match the market performance or return. Key characteristic: fewer trades, lower management fees, focus on long-term stable returns, lower risk as it aims to track the market rather than beat it, and commonly involves index fund or ETF. So index fund, this one is a type of mutual fund that in, composed of basket of different securities, which is designed to uh, mimic only the performance of a specific market index. So this one are all types or different types of passive investment. Then ETF is exchange traded funds. So this one is uh, this one trading on stock exchange like individual stocks. Then Uh, portfolio another portfolio management strategy is on the basis of discretionary. For this one, uh, this if your investment portfolio of the investor is handled by or managed by portfolio manager. So discretionary if the portfolio manager has a full control over investment decision, executing trades, and adjusting the portfolio without investors' prior approval. While the non-discretionary portfolio manager only provides advice and recommendations, and the investor will only be the one who make the final decision on buying or selling assets. Then uh, different types of portfolio risk mitigation. We have diversification. So this one is the number one risk mitigation of in investment or portfolio. Inve- so this one involves spread risk across asset classes, stores, and geographies. Then another risk mitigation for portfolio is asset allocation. It can be strategic, which is long term, and tactical or short term, balancing between stocks, bonds, and other assets. So for strategic allocation, the time horizon will be long term. So long term investment horizon. So it can be 7 years or even decades. Then in focus, strategic maintaining a fixed asset allocation. So it is which is based on risk of tolerance, time horizon, and financial costs. So this allocation is not generally not adjusted frequently, because then risk lower risk, then because it prioritize stability and diversification, so it is lower risk. Then complexity, less complex, because it is a passive type of management, uh, wherein uh, meaning there will be a minimal trading and rebalancing activities in the for this type of strategy of risk mitigation. Then tactical allocation, it is a short-term investment horizon, uh, which is and focus on actively adjusting the allocation. So it is more on aggressive approach because since it needs to be adjusted actively based on current market conditions and economic forecast. It is involve higher risk because more on technology industry or technology investment, healthcare investment, then you can use benchmark sector indices benchmark to for you to know how that specific area is doing s- in separately or ag- from the rest of the market. Then we can do also valuation of the performance of your portfolio through measuring the return of your investment. So we have the first one is getting a computation of the total return of your portfolio. It represents the overall gain or loss of a portfolio over a specific period, including both capital gains, which is the increase in the value of the asset, and income like dividends or interest. Formula to calculate total return is equals to ending value minus beginning value plus income divide beginning value times 100. So here the ending value is the value of the portfolio at the end of the period and beginning is the at the start of the period. Then income is any income directly generated from the portfolio like dividends or interest. For example, Michael invests 10,000 in the stock market or stock portfolio. After 1 year, the value of the portfolio grows to 11,200 and he received 300 in dividends. So to compute the total return, let's just minus 11,200 to uh minus 10 to 10,000 plus 300 dividend divided the 10,000 times 100. So the total return for Michael's stock portfolio will be 15%. So for this one, his portfolio is profitable due to increase in overall return of which is equals to 15%. Then another key metrics for evaluation of performance is calculating the risk adjusted return of your portfolio. It can be there are different types, two types, sorry. It's Sharpe ratio and trainer ratio. So overall, risk-adjusted return means measures how much return a portfolio has generated relative to the risk it has taken. So in Sharpe ratio, it measures the portfolio's return above the risk-free rate per unit of risk. So a key concept, a higher Sharpe ratio means better risk-adjusted performance. So to form the formula to compute Sharpe ratio, portfolio return minus risk-free rate divides standard deviation of portfolio return. The risk-free rate, this is uh, return of a risk-free asset, often a government because government bond because government is a low risk risk asset or for investment because the, are considered a low risk have a low risk default. Then standard deviation of portfolio return, this represents the volatility or risk of the portfolio. So in continuation of our example about Micah's portfolio, suppose uh, his portfolio returned 12% last year. His treasury bond risk-free rate was 2%, and his portfolio's return had a standard deviation of 10%. So to compute the Sharpe ratio, you just need to deduct 12% to 2% and divide it to standard deviation of 10%. So Michael's Sharpe ratio will be or Michael's portfolio Sharpe ratio will be 1. So it means his portfolio generated 1% of excess return for each unit of risk. Then another type of risk-adjusted return is trainer ratio. This measures returns per unit of systematic risk or beta. This ratio focuses on portfolio's performance relative to market risk. Concept, trainer ratios are preferably as they indicate better risk-adjusted performance, taking into account only the systematic or the market-related risk. Formula, portfolio return minus risk-free rate divide beta. The beta is the measurement of the portfolio's volatility relative to the market. So for example, Michael portfolio again had a return of 12% with a risk-free rate of 2%. But instead of standard deviation, he used beta to assess market risk. Assume portfolio's beta is 1.2. So, uh, so the computation for trainer ratio to get the uh, measure of return over risk, systematic risk will be 12% minus 2% divide 1.2 beta. So the trainer ratio will be approximately 8.33%. So so it means Michael's portfolio achieved an 8.83% of excess return over the market risk per unit. Then another key metrics for performance evaluation of the portfolio is alpha and beta calculation. It measures performance against market volatility. In alpha, it measures a portfolio's performance compared to a benchmark index like the SP 500. Key concept, positive alpha means portfolio outperform the benchmark, while negative indicates underperformance. Formula to compute alpha, portfolio return minus risk-free rate plus beta times the market return minus risk-free rate. Uh, so, for example, Michael portfolio earned a return of 15%. The S&P 500 market returned 10%. The risk-free rate was 2%, and his portfolio's beta is 1.1. So the alpha will be 4.2%. It means Michael's portfolio outperformed the expected return of 4.2% outperformed the expected return by 4.2% based on its risk level. Then lastly, beta, it measures the portfolio sensitivity to overall market movements. A beta of 1 means the portfolio moves in line with the market, and a beta greater than 1 means it's more volatile than the market, and beta less than 1 means it's less volatile. So, uh, formula to calculate the beta, covariance of portfolio and market returns divide variance of market returns. The covariance of portfolio and market returns measures how the portfolio returns move in relation to the market returns, and the variance of market returns measures the variability of the market returns. Example, Michael's portfolio sensitivity to market changes. Assume covariance between his portfolio and the market is 0.018 and the variance of the market return is 0.015. So the beta of his portfolio will be 1.2. So it means Michael's portfolio is 20% more volatile than the market. So if a portfolio is more volatile, it offers it often offers a potential greater return. So if the market is rising, a volatile portfolio may outperform more stable investment. So that's it po. Thank you.